Hi, these are the top 10 films of 1982. When I say top, I mean my personal favourite films. 1982 was a great year for cinema, but in particular, science fiction. In at number 10, Star Trek II: The Wrath of Khan. I really like the first Star Trek film, but it is a little bit dull. But dull is certainly not a word you'd use to describe this second big screen outing for the crew of the Enterprise. One of the great things about this Trek film is that it acknowledges the ages of the actors. It's about growing old, about lifelong friends, and about death. So many of the films involving the original cast try and tell stories as if they were still the same young crew from the show. Speaking of the show, what a brilliant idea to take a villain from one episode and bring them back for their vengeance on the big screen. A fantastic nod to the fans of the show, and bringing back Ricardo Montalban as Karl was perfect. He hams it up just as much as Shatner does.
Buried alive. Buried alive.
The film has a real naval vibe to it, especially in the climactic battle of the starships. And helping this feeling is James Horner's terrific score. This is top-notch sci-fi in a year of top-notch sci-fi. In at number 9, Missing. This is an exceptionally upsetting film for more than one reason. Based on a true story, this is about the search for an American journalist who went missing during the United States-backed Chilean coup in 1973. The American embassy don't really seem to be doing anything to look for him, so it is up to his wife and father. The wife is played brilliantly by Sissy Spacek, a woman fearing the worst and not trusting the American government one bit. His father is played by Jack Lemmon, giving one of his best performances. He is a man of a different generation to his son and daughter-in-laws. He doesn't understand her distrust in the government. Their relationship is at the core of the film, and they are both magnificent in it. Their conflict and eventual bonding are brilliantly portrayed by the actors. The real journalist who went missing was Charles Horman, and whether you know his story before watching the film or not, it's kind of obvious what has happened to him. But that doesn't take away from the film, because it's all about the characters, and about the real people, and about the injustice of it all. What's even more shocking is how this film was silenced for years. After its cinematic release, lawsuits were filed, and the film was pulled off the market, and only in 2006 was it re-released. I recommend watching the film, or just looking up the tragic true story of Charles Horman. In at number 8, 48 Hours. A wildly entertaining action film. Often seen as the first buddy cop movie, it isn't, that credit belongs to the 1974 film Freebie and the Bean. This is still the film that popularised that format in the 80s. Nick Nolte plays a violent alcoholic cop who does things his way. Someone who rightly these days would be seen as a villain, but back in 80s films, who gives a damn? He is on the hunt for an escaped convict, and in order to track him down, he gets the criminal's former friend out of prison for 48 hours to help him catch the killer. Eddie Murphy in his first film role is hilarious. He also really shows off his acting chops in the serious scenes. One of my favourite details in the film is how horny Murphy's character is after being in prison for 3 years.
Yo man, does she have like big giant titties?
I can see this is going to be a long fucking night, convict.
The chemistry between the two is excellent, and Walter Hill knows how to deliver on the action. It's fascinating to see how cop movies in San Francisco have changed over the years. From Bullet in the 60s, Dirty Harry in the 70s, this in the 80s, and The Rock in the 1990s. In at number 7, Gandhi. Richard Attenborough's excellent biopic of Gandhi. Ben Kingsley is great in the lead, and the film does the excellent job of showing Gandhi's many sacrifices and stumbles along the way. It has an epic quality, And adding to that is just how many extras fill most of the scenes. The location photography is beautiful and it has an outstanding cast. If I were to nitpick slightly, it would be that I wish the film wasn't just in English. One of the remarkable things about India is the many languages that are spoken there. Anyway, this is a very good film, worthy of the great man himself. Although this is my second favourite performance of Ben Kingsley's, my favourite is in Sexy Beast.
No, not this fucking time. No fucking way, no fucking way, no fucking way, no fucking way. You made me look a right cunt.
In at number 6, Burden of Dreams. This amazing documentary about the making of another 1982 film, Fitzcarraldo. That film was about a madman trying to get a boat over a steep hill in the middle of the Amazon. But this documentary is showing a real madman trying to get a boat over a steep hill in the middle of the Amazon. When it comes to Werner Herzog and Klaus Kinski, Herzog understandably comes across as the sane one, but he's bonkers in his own special way. Watching him and his crew in the depths of the rainforest trying to make this insane film is fascinating. The setbacks, the disasters, the genuine danger, it's all captivating. It's chaos personified. Herzog is determined to get his film finished at any cost, and at the cost of others. When a safety technician walks off the project after saying that up to 30 people could die if a stunt goes wrong, it's nerve-shattering when Herzog decides to go ahead with the stunt. Werner Herzog's interviews are brilliant. He has such a way with words.
The trees here are in misery and the birds are in misery. I don't think they sing, they just screech in pain.
It's also a far deeper look than Fitzcarraldo into the native people of the area. It's a fascinating look at how people were living their lives in a remote part of a rainforest before the world was about to fully catch up with them. It's a beautiful looking film that examines determination and madness. 1982 was a great year for film, and here are some other notable releases. First Blood. The first Rambo film is nothing like the others. It's a riveting look at a Vietnam veteran. A man with nowhere to go, a man with no one to help him deal with his emotional trauma, and a man no one can stop.
Are you telling me that 200 men against your boy is a no-win situation for us?
You send that many, don't forget one thing. A good supply of body bags.
Sylvester Stallone. This time, he's fighting for his life. First Blood.
Koyana Squad C.
A stunning experimental film with top-notch cinematography and an outstanding score by Philip Glass. It explores our impact on this world, and that's a subject that has never stopped being relevant. Dark Crystal. Jim Henson made this wonderfully dark adventure film seemingly with the sole intention to give children nightmares. Poltergeist. A haunted house film from the director of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. It's a lot less Tobe Hooper though, and a lot more Steven Spielberg, who produced the film, and we can also guess that he directed a lot of it too. There was Tron, that looked nothing like a video game from that era, or now, but it was a lot of fun. The harrowing Sophie's Choice featured a superb performance by Meryl Streep. It's weird how that heartbreaking choice from the film has now ended up being a phrase for deciding between two things you like. You get people saying, hot dogs or hamburgers? Ooh, it's like Sophie's Choice. Dustin Hoffman won both the Oscar for Best Actor and Best Actress for his performance in Tootsie. I'm just joking, he won neither. My favourite joke from the whole year appeared in Airplane 2.
Commander Murdoch?
What is it, Lieutenant?
Sir, the Mayflower's in trouble. She's coming in hotter than a firecracker, sir. Their computer's down, they've lost their crew, and they're flying on manual control, sir.
We better get to the tower, Lieutenant.
We have no tower, sir.
No tower?
Just a bridge, sir.
Why the hell aren't I notified about these things? Lieutenant, how would you handle this?
Friday the 13th Part 3 further proved that 3D is shite.
I have warned thee.
This is all the exercise I need.
You really feel like you're there, all the things that I love about 3D.
Halloween 3 decided to ditch Michael Myers and go for a different Halloween-themed story. Fair enough, trying to mix it up, but why do it with the third one? Surely you're going to confuse a lot of people. It would be like if Lethal Weapon 3 was about a talking fish. Silent Rage was a bizarre mix of horror, kung fu and comedy, but had one hell of a tagline. Science created him, but now Chuck Norris must destroy him. It could have equally read, Science created him and now Chuck Norris must destroy science. And my least favourite film of the year goes to Partners, an astonishingly homophobic cop film starring Ryan O'Neal and John Hurt. It's the comedy version of Cruising no one was asking for.
I think you could have waited a little while before you threw our first orgy.
Listen, we're not going to get anywhere with this faggot. Why don't we just cut our losses right now, sir?
Don't be a sexist. Go back, hold his hand, and get the job done.
What are you doing? Are we on a case or a shopping expedition?
I'm behind with the laundry. And stop ironing my damn underwear.
Guys don't iron other guys' clothes.
And now back to my top 10. In at number 5, Fanny and Alexander. One of Bergman's best. It has so much going on. It's realistic, dreamlike, sweet, nasty, surreal, and totally believable. A semi-autobiographical film told through the eyes of a child. There are definite Dickensian vibes, especially with the nasty stepfather. And it also has similar feelings to a Russian epic in the way it deals with a rich family and their relationships. For my money, it's Bergman's best looking film. The colours are sumptuous and the sets are cluttered and delightful. As with so many Bergman films, there is a lot to read into the movie. It deals with religion, family, and even reality itself. A film with many layers, fantastic performances, and a unique feeling. It's a bit odd that it's called Fanny and Alexander, as his sister Fanny barely appears in it, so it should have just been called Alexander. In at number 4, E.T. the Extraterrestrial. Steven Spielberg firing on all cylinders. Much like Fanny and Alexander, this is another film seen through the eyes of a child. Elliot's friendship with an extraterrestrial is brilliantly moving. The adults in the film are frightened by the unknown, but this child is perfectly willing and happy to make friends with what he doesn't understand. It has it all. Comedy, drama, real tension, and a sweeping sense of adventure, helped along by John Williams' knockout score. It's pure Hollywood done perfectly. In at number 3, The King of Comedy. One of Scorsese's best. In many ways, this is a different take on the Taxi Driver story. Once again, we have an unhinged loner in New York City who eventually resorts to violence, which bizarrely makes a star of him. Robert De Niro is once again spellbinding, and his performance of Rupert Pupkin is one of his best. A grade A loser with dreams of being a famous stand-up comic. His hero is a late-night talk show host played by Jerry Lewis. Lewis plays both the performer and the angry man behind him to perfection. King of Comedy is simultaneously funny and cringe-makingly embarrassing. Sandra Bernhard also brings a wonderful unpredictability to the whole film, as another mad fan of Lewis's. It's an odd movie, but again one that seems more and more relevant. The feeling or need for people to be acknowledged on a large scale. The desperation for fame. We have Pumpkin's delusional daydreaming, where he's trying to show the people of his past that he is now a somebody. Also, through Jerry Lewis's character, we see that success and fame does not necessarily lead to happiness. King of Comedy was a huge financial flop, which is such a shame. It's not an easy film to watch, mainly due to how embarrassing it is, and also how realistic it all feels. It's a wonderful companion piece to Taxi Driver, but it's also a masterpiece in its own right. In at number 2, The Thing, a very different alien to E.T. John Carpenter's sci-fi horror is not only his best film, but also one of the best films about aliens to have ever been made. So often an alien, yes even that alien, ends up being just a man in a suit, but here it is unlike anything we've seen before, on this planet at least. Set in Antarctica, we follow a group of men in a research station who stumble across something in the ice. An alien that can assume the likeness of its host, but when it shows itself, it's truly gruesome and horrifying. Everything is well executed here. The screenplay by Burt Lancaster's son is tight, on point, and full of paranoia. The cinematography and location photography are great. The performances are distinct and memorable. Ennio Morricone's score is unlike anything he's done before and adds to the eerie tone. And above all else, Rob Bottin's special effects are grotesque, believable, and one of a kind. The film, much like 1978's Invasion of the Body Snatchers, updates a 1950s film with new improved effects, but also adds this sense of hopelessness, insurmountable odds that aren't eventually overcome. 1986's The Fly would continue that tradition. I love all three of those movies, but The Thing just has that little bit extra and a complete uniqueness to it. A great science fiction movie in a year of great sci-fi, but not the best sci-fi film of 1982. Every so often a film comes out that completely changes a genre. Ridley Scott's third film and second sci-fi film in a row is such a picture. Set in the dystopian future of 2 years ago, it tells the story of a Blade Runner, a detective/assassin tasked with hunting down robots, or in this case replicants, who have gone astray. We follow Deckard, a moody bastard of a Blade Runner who's trying to find a bunch of replicants and retire them, kill them. The leader of these replicants is one of the great all-time movie villains. A villain who does horrible things, but you still can't help but feel sorry for him. The replicants have a built-in short lifespan, and he simply wants to live longer. This is a film about life, and what it means to be alive with the certain knowledge that it'll all end. A film about mortality, and about the haves and have-nots. What it means to be human, what makes us special. And on top of all this, it's also a brilliantly fun sci-fi noir. It has all the great ingredients of a great film noir. A grumpy detective, a beautiful woman he's not sure he can trust, lies, power, deceit, sex, and murder. And on top of all this is the astonishing world building, through outstanding set design, costumes, and the groundbreaking special effects. And underneath all of this, the beautiful Vangelis score, making one of the great movie soundtracks. Ridley Scott used Hong Kong as an inspiration, and the influence his neon-lit, nightmarish, rain-soaked city had on culture can still be seen today. The cast is brilliant in it. Harrison Ford didn't have a good time making the film, but that comes across in his performance and works well for the character. He's fed up and irritable. Sean Young is both vulnerable and seductive as the tragic Rachel, and all the replicants are excellent, but especially good is Rutger Hauer as Roy Batty. He's so good, he even came up with that astonishing end speech on his own.
I've seen things you people wouldn't believe.
There are of course many different versions, and I own them all. I'm not sure why, considering the only one I watch is the final cut. What's astonishing about this film is that it's quite light on plot, and it's more about a mood and an atmosphere. I had seen the film dozens of times, but when I first saw it on the big screen, I was amazed by how the tone and mood just sweeps over you. This is one of those films that comes along maybe once in a decade. It's one hell of a movie. The world and the themes are dealt with amazingly, and I can't believe that Ridley Scott directed both Alien and this back to back. Two masterpieces of science fiction cinema. Right, so counting down the top 10. In at number 10, Star Trek II: The Wrath of Khan. In at number 9, Missing. In at number 8, 48 Hours. In at number 7, Gandhi. In at number 6, Burden of Dreams. In at number 5, Fanny and Alexander. In at number 4, E.T. In at number 3, The King of Comedy. In at number 2, The Thing. And in at number 1, Blade Runner. Well, those are my top 10 films of 1982. There's probably loads I've missed out, so what are your top films of 1982? Cheers.